Game two of the NBA Finals. That was a really solid game one. It was back and forth until Boston kind of took over there in the fourth quarter. We do not have a Millie Maker, but we do still have $250,000 up top. Still a lot of money to be won. So excited to break this one down for you guys again. If you're a first-time viewer, welcome. I do cover content for Draftkings, NBA Top Shot Prize Picks, and for Super Draft. Super Draft is the sponsor of this video. You can use the code DKDFS for a $50 match on a $50 deposit. So take advantage of that free money. You can play player props. You can win up to 20x your money. They also have multiplier formats where you compete against other users. So if you guys want to give it a try again, take advantage of that free money. And if you're looking for more in-depth content for DFS, you can check out my Patreon linked down below. We cover the NBA, USFL, and esports. All right, so let's go over my lineups here from the Millie Maker yesterday. So I made two lineups, both cashed relatively easily. This lineup had a little bit of a sweat going into the fourth quarter. I was like in 100th place. I was like a couple points back of the Millie. But then unfortunately, Jaylen Brown kind of took over there in the fourth for Boston. Horford as well. But yeah, I went to Steph and the captain, Tatum, Smart, Wiggins, Draymond, Iguodala. Now, one thing that we covered pretty in depth in the Patreon live stream was that I was not confident in Gary Payton playing after we got that news. So we got news from Underdog that Gary Payton, even if he's going to be available, there's no guarantee he'd be in the regular rotation. So that worried me. And then I really went more in depth about it, how I thought Boston's a very big heavy team. I didn't think three guard lineups that Golden State ran a lot against like Memphis would really work against Boston. So maybe we don't see Gary Payton, and that was in fact correct. In the high stakes in the Hall of Famer, you saw Gary Payton 35% owned. He was massive chalk. Well, Iguodala was low owned. And my take was, of the punt plays, Iguodala is my favorite option. That worked out in a pretty big way. 11, you might not think 11.5 fantasy points is a lot. That's actually massive for a guy at 1K. So Iguodala was huge for us. He was a valuable play we talked about a lot on Patreon. That worked out in a big way. Draymond, Wiggins are both fine. Draymond turned the ball over like 22 times in the fourth quarter to just go under on prize picks, which tilted me beyond belief. You also Looney had an okay game, but really had like 5 blocks to bail out the fish once again there in the third quarter. But yeah, so that was my one lineup. My other lineup, I left a lot of salary on the table trying to get unique. I went to Draymond and the captain. Still cashed relatively easily. So it was Draymond, Tatum, Steph, Jaylen Brown, Wiggins, and Iguodala. So it was a really solid night for me overall. Hope you guys had a good night as well. And high stakes, again, was pretty low scoring slate for a lot of the high stakes players. Like I said, Gary Payton being massive chalk was a little bit of a surprise for me. But this is the winning lineup in high stakes. It's actually Wiggins in the captain, Tatum, Steph, Jaylen Brown, Smart, and Iguodala. All right, so talking game two here. We'll start off on the Boston side. So Tatum had one of his worst games I've seen. I mean, he could not make a shot. He had so many wide open looks, and he still went for 40 fantasy points. So that's a good sign for Tatum, right? A guy that, if he's not scoring the ball, can still do some playmaking. Went for 13 assists. That's not there. We're not going to get 13 assists again from Tatum, but it's a good sign that even when he's struggling shooting, he can still have a decent game. So I do like Tatum at the top. I do prefer Tatum to Brown. I know Brown had the bigger game last game, but now they're pretty close in price. And when they're this close in price, I'm just going to give the edge to Tatum, even though Brown had the good game last game. In the mid-range, we have guys like Smart and Horford. I think are both pretty good plays. Marcus Smart is going to play big minutes in this series. Now, he only played 30 last game. It was a little bit surprising. You did have Derek White play really well. Also, Pritchard played well in the fourth quarter, so kind of limited Smart's minutes. I would guess his minutes bump up here. So an 8K Marcus Smart, I think makes for a pretty safe play in the mid-range. I think the only thing you had to really worry about there is potential foul trouble. And then Horford had a really big game, especially in the fourth quarter, but he did shoot 9 of 12. So I'm a little bit cautious about Horford. I still think he's like a decent option, but I might lean Smart over Horford. I think people might chase the Horford game. Again, I don't know if we get 9 of 12 shooting again from Al Horford. Now, in the mid-range, we have Rob Williams, who is kind of just like a tournament-only play for me. He's been banged up basically all playoffs. There was, some news that Boston wanted to keep him around 20 minutes. He played 24. He did have 4 blocks and a steal. That is what Rob Williams can do, but I'm not sure if we get, 5 stocks again from him. So he's kind of just a more tournament-only play. I don't really see him playing huge minutes in this series. Derek White had a really big game, and he's played very well of late. And the thing is, against this, more small ball Golden State team, you could see him, I think we get, around 30 minutes of Derek White on average here. So I do think he's a pretty decent value play. Did have a really good shooting game last game, so not sure if he's going to shoot that well again, but still think White's going to be a pretty big part of this rotation. Now, Grant Williams at 4-2 did only play 16 minutes, which I thought was a little bit surprising. I think you could see Grant Williams play a bit more in this game. So ownership probably will be relatively low on him based on the last game, but I could see Grant Williams playing more in this game. We also saw some run for Peyton Pritchard, who was basically getting DNPs down the stretch in the Miami series. Did play 16 minutes. Now the positive of Peyton Pritchard is he's going to be productive when he's on the court. It's just a matter of can they keep him out there because he's going to be hunted defensively. So Pritchard, I do have a little bit of interest in him. It's good to see 16 minutes, but I do think, if things go wrong, Boston falls behind early and Golden State just, attacks Pritchard on the defensive end, that he could be relatively limited here. And then I was very surprised we saw Daniel Tice run 6 minutes of Daniel Tice. I don't think he plays again. So I'd be pretty surprised if he touches the court again here in game 2. On the Golden State side, so Steph Curry had a really solid game. Great first quarter. Kind of faded down the stretch there in the fourth, but I mean, Golden State's really relying on Steph Curry. Clay's been struggling a majority of the playoffs. Poole's been up and down, so I do like Steph at the top. Basically a must-win game here for Golden State, so I think he makes for a great spend up. In the mid-range, we have Clay, Wiggins, and Draymond, and Looney kind of in that mix as well. Klay Thompson, again, he's gonna fail for you more often than he comes through. But every 4, 5, 6 games, he's going to have that, 40-plus fantasy point game. So with Klay, I mean, it all depends on your risk tolerance because, like I said, it's going to fail more often than it comes through. However, when it comes through, usually comes through in a pretty big way. So Klay's always just a tournament-only play for me. Usually has those big games in the closeout games, but yeah, more of a tournament-only play just because he's pretty score-independent. Wiggins and Draymond, I think, are both pretty safe plays. Saw 35 minutes from Andrew Wiggins. Still, it was relatively aggressive on the offensive end. Didn't have the best matchup, right? He had a much easier matchup against Luka last series. And then Draymond Green played huge minutes, 38 minutes, and that's what I was expecting. He had a subpar game for 38 minutes, but I'm willing to go back to the well there with Draymond Green, who's going to be a big part of this rotation. Again, you saw his minutes go up, where you saw Looney's minutes go down. So Looney at 6'8", I mean, he had an okay game, did have 3 blocks. You're not going to get that again from Kevon Looney, almost guaranteed. What you are going to get from Looney is, he's going to be good on the glass, but 25 minutes, I'm not sure if he plays that much again here. I think Golden State's best shot is play Otto Porter Jr. more and Kevon Looney less. So Looney is one I'll probably continue to fade. If Draymond gets in foul trouble or if he goes for 4 blocks again, so be it. But yeah, I'm not going to go to Kevon Looney. Jordan Poole, 6K, just a tournament-only play. Played 25 minutes, struggled. However, that game, should lower his ownership. And we've seen people overreact big time to one game, right? And that's usually what we get from game 2 of the series, is people just go to whoever did well in game 1. So Jordan Poole, I think, is going to be pretty low owned. Just because he had a bad game last game, that does not mean he's going to have a bad game again. Jordan Poole could very easily go for 30-plus fantasy points. So I like him for tournaments. So I think the ownership's going to be pretty low. And then Otto Porter, I think, will be pretty popular. Played 24 minutes. Did shoot well. But, yeah, he matches up well against Boston, right? Boston's a wing-heavy team, and Porter's just another, good defender that can knock down some threes. I think he's a solid value. I don't know if we get, he's been shooting the ball very well of late. So I don't know if he continues to shoot the ball that well, but I think he's going to be a pretty solid value. My only downside, or my only worry with Porter is I think he's going to be overowned. And I just brought that up, right? People overreact a lot to one game. So what might happen here is you might get massive chalk Porter and no one's going to play Jordan Poole. And if that's the case, I'm just going to rather play Jordan Poole, even though he's $1,500 more. I would rather go there in tournaments than, everyone chasing Otto Porter. And I'm not saying Otto Porter's a bad play. I just think he's going to be overowned because we've seen that all playoffs long, right? Kuminga got a DNP. Again, Peyton, so when I made my video like 3 or 4 days before game 1. I thought he would play, but then we got the news game day where there's no guarantees in being the regular rotation, and that's why I kind of got off him. So now, does that mean he's going to get a DNP again? No. I mean, Golden State lost, so maybe they tried to mix things up. I said this a lot in the Patriots stream last night. You never know what Steve Kerr's going to do. Literally, never know. I mean, I got wrong the last couple games of the Dallas series, who I thought was me kind of that 7th, 8th guy in the rotation. I was flat out wrong, right? I didn't think Kuminga was going to play the 2 games ago, and then I thought Kuminga would play in the closeout game against Dallas. It was Bielitsa, so like, you just don't know what's going to happen. So is there a chance that Gary Payton plays in this game? Yeah, it's definitely possible. Again, my worry is, like I said, Boston has a lot of wings, and I don't really know if Golden State wants to run a lot of 3-guard lineups against this Boston team. So that's the worry with Payton. I do think his ownership is going to be pretty low, though, after getting a DNP last game. And then Iguodala. I mean, it's not super fun, but I expect him to be in the rotation. He went for 11 fantasy points in 12 minutes. I think he's a fair punt play. I don't expect big minutes, but I do expect him to be a part of this rotation and definitely viable as a salary relief option. And yeah, I don't really think anyone else plays for Golden State. Again, Peyton would be the one guy that got a DNP last game that I think could have a chance of playing. I would be pretty surprised if you see guys like Kuminga, Bielitsa, Moody in this one. So, yeah, guys, that's going to wrap it up for game 2. So like I said, I want to make this point one more time, is you're going to see a lot of overreactions to game 1, right? People have done that all playoffs long. So while, I don't hate going back to guys who had good games, I think it makes some sense to maybe go to a couple of guys that struggle. Maybe like a Jordan Poole. Maybe a Grant Williams is going to be low owned, right? So there's some merit to take some risks like that, because people are just going to chase what happened in game 1. So that'll wrap it up for the video, guys. Again, if you do enjoy the YouTube content, just make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Those things do help me out a ton. Other than that, appreciate your support, and I'll see you guys in the next video.